Hola, Facebook. It's Beto here, your daily divinity coach, here for episode 22 of my weekly series, Sunday Weekly Revival. Episode 22 is entitled Bruce Lee, MMA, and the Eclectic Nature of Manifesting Immortality. Today is Sunday, November 15, 2020. We're going to give a couple minutes for some people to join live. If you're watching the recorded video, go ahead and fast forward a couple minutes. If you've already seen me give my introduction about myself, especially, go ahead and forward a couple minutes. We're just going to give some people some time to join. I am going to tag a couple people right now, so that's what I'm doing. And then we'll go ahead and get going soon here. So really excited about this episode. Don't want to tag too many people, but just looking in to see who's out there, who's active right now. And we're just going to go ahead and tag a few people. So here we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. So we got a few people tagged. We'll have some people join live very soon. But again, happy to be here. My name is Beto. I'm your daily divinity coach, here for episode number 22 entitled Bruce Lee, MMA, and the Eclectic Nature of Manifesting Immortality. Today's Sunday, November 15, 2020. I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts, actually just across the river in Cambridge, and very excited about this episode. It's going to be fun, thrilling, dynamic, awesome, yeah. So we'll get going in the content, with the content in a little bit. But again, I'm Beto, your daily divinity coach. We're just giving a couple minutes for some people to join. I tagged a couple people, including Emma Lou, who loves getting a shout out, so I got to make sure I say that. Shout out to Emma Lou. But many others I'm sure will be joining soon. The word takes a little bit of time for the word on Facebook to get out and for people to join. But while we're waiting for folk, I want to go ahead and give an introduction to myself. So again, my name is Beto, aka Daily Divinity Coach, and 3 things about me. Number 1, I am a Master Divinity. I hold a divinity degree, Master Divinity degree. And I'm a graduate of Harvard University Divinity School. I actually live currently within a mile of Harvard University. So in the area, but originally from California, from the San Francisco, just outside of San Francisco. What else about me? I'm a pluralist, so I use inclusive language, like the great teacher, the divine. So whereas other people might use the universe or the great spirit or God or Allah, I use the divine, inclusive language, right? Because I'm a pluralist, I teach all. So I have followers of all faiths and no faiths. So all faiths, including Protestant and Catholic, Jewish and Muslim, Hindu and Buddhist, agnostic and atheist. So I teach all. Also, I have no sponsor. So I sponsor everything myself. I'm blessed to have a really great day job, which allows me to sponsor myself. So everything you see here today, everything that I do is sponsored by me. 3 things I do on social media. Number 1, I do a post. I post every Sunday, or excuse me, not every Sunday. I post every day. I post daily divinity coaching every day, and it's about a paragraph long, and I post across social media platforms. So that includes, here on Facebook, it includes Instagram, I post on Twitter, I post on LinkedIn, so those 4 platforms. So I do that every day, about a paragraph, about spirituality, something spiritual in nature. And then I also do these shows. Every Sunday I'm live here on Facebook Live, starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 8:30 a.m. on the West Coast Pacific Standard Time. So I here every Sunday. And before this show, I'm actually on Instagram Live for half an hour. I start over there at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then I flip over here for Facebook Live starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I do this every Sunday. It's called Sunday Weekly Revival, with the exception of the first Sunday of the month. Because the first Sunday of the month, I do what I call my monthly mailbag. And for that show, I don't have content that I deliver, but rather I take your pre-submitted questions and I answer them. It's a whole show of, questions that are pre-submitted by people who read my posts, who watch my shows, and then I answer them. So it's a lot of fun. I love it. We did the first one in October, and we'll do the next one in November. Got some great questions. And so if you have any questions for the next show or coming shows, please submit those via DM or IM. Or you can also, if you have my phone number, text them to me. Leaving a comment here is not always reliable. So if you can please DM, IM me, or text me your questions for those monthly mailbags, it'd be greatly appreciated. I do offer free things, free offerings, I should say. And one of those is free one-on-one divinity coaching. So if you have any questions about the content of any of my shows, the content of any posts, anything spiritual in nature you want to talk about, I offer free up to 45 minutes of divinity coaching. So please take advantage of that. And to set that up, just reach out to me again, DM, IM, text, and we'll set up a time to talk. And it'll be awesome. Yeah, a lot of people have done it, and it's been great, and I love doing it. Also, I offer free scientific prayer. So if you have a free prayer request, you'd like me to pray for you, please reach out. I love doing that. My little secret is my mom is now retired. My mom was my, if you haven't seen past episodes, read past posts, she's my, tutored me in the law of attraction when I was a kid, me and my brother and sister. And so, she's still my coach. So she's retired now. So she absolutely loves it when I call her and say, Mom, I got a new, prayer request, this scientific prayer. And she'll say, what is it about? What is it? Well, this scientific prayer is this, this, and this. She's like, all right, let's do it. And she gets all excited. And she's incredible at visualization. She doesn't need to know you, but she just has this ability to visualize that request coming to pass in the spiritual. It's unbelievable. And I wasn't, honestly, as a kid, I wasn't very good at it. But, with practice, I've gotten better and better. But so that's my little secret with the free scientific prayer. So do know if you do send in a request, it's being offered up by two people who really want the best for you. We're just full of love and gratitude and joy, and we want to share that with you all. And again, she's retired now, so she looks forward to those calls. And then the last thing I offer is free bracelets. So I produced these bracelets. There's 3 here. I can actually, if I go off camera a little bit, I can bring this over to show you. There's 3 bracelets. I give it away as a set. All 3 start with manifest. And I'm just going to roll it around here. And there's a gray one that says manifest justice, a blue one that says manifest abundance, and a black one that says manifest immortality. And I give these away as a set for free. And if you live within the U.S., it's always free for shipping. But because of the pandemic, up till the end of the year, if you live anywhere in North America or Europe, I will ship to you for free. So if you haven't gotten your free set of bracelets, please reach out. IM, DM, text me. Again, it's not always reliable leaving a comment here on these live shows, but more than happy to get out those bracelets to you. It's a joy for me. Just so that you know, yesterday I gave away the very last set of 3 bracelets from my first production of 250. So if you have bracelets right now that I've already sent to you, know that you've gotten a set from the first production. And my shipment just came in for my second production. So I got a second set of 250 bracelets, eager to get them out. So if you haven't gotten them, get in touch. If you've already gotten them and you have a friend that's interested, have them come, follow me on social media and ask for the bracelets. More than happy to get those out. And now I got a lot. I got 250 more to give away. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and start getting to the content of the show now. I've given my brief introduction, and we've had people join. But before I do that, I do want to say happy Diwali weekend. I have a lot of people who watch my shows and read my posts who are from India and who are celebrating Diwali weekend. But not just from India. There's people here in the U.S. and across the globe celebrating Diwali weekend. And it's a beautiful holiday. It symbolizes the spiritual victory of light over darkness, of good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. So beautiful weekend if you're celebrating blessings. Also want to give a shout out to an Eclectic restaurant in New York City. The name of the restaurant is the Deep End, and the owners were friends, follow each other on social media. And this restaurant has given away over 18,000, prepared and given away over 18,000 free meals to first responders since the beginning of the pandemic. But now with winter coming in the Northeast, they've made the announcement that they're going to shut down their business operations so that they can 100%, let me say that again, 100%, devote their resources to giving away free meals to battle head-on food insecurity in their community. So they're going to give these free meals out to people who are hungry, who are battling food insecurity. And it's a beautiful thing they're doing, and I wanted to acknowledge them and give them a shout out. So on to the episode. Why I chose the title, Bruce Lee, MMA, and the Eclectic Nature Manifesting Immortality. Interesting title, right? So a little bit about me. If you've watched past episodes or even read some of my posts, you know that I'm a boxing guy. I've never competed myself, but I worked in the industry for 5 years. I lived in Las Vegas, and I wrote for Fight News as well as Seconds Out. So I was a ringside media correspondent and a cage side, because I did not just boxing but MMA as well. But boxing was really my specialty. It's why they brought me on to write for them, Fight News, and then later on Seconds Out. And I still train today. I work out at a boxing gym 5 days a week. I've done some sparring and whatnot, but again, never competed. But love the sport, been following it since I was a kid. It's I tell people it's cultural, right? Growing up Chicano in California, when I did, those were our icons, right? Growing up, whether it's Julio Cesar Chavez or, a lot of other great fighters. Of course, Oscar de la Hoya, the Golden Boy. So anyhow, that's my background. But in addition to that, and I don't think I've said this in any posts or episodes, mentioned it, but I did study Taekwondo when I was a teenager in high school. At that time, my mom didn't want to let me train boxing. So there's a lot of karate studios around, right? The Karate Kid is that era, right? It's the mid-'80s. A lot of karate stuff going on. And so a friend of the family, his name's Scott Coker, had a Taekwondo studio, right? The Korean martial art. And so I started studying with him. And Scott Coker is now the president of Bellator MMA. It's the second largest promotional outfit of mixed martial arts here in the U.S., second only to the UFC, which is obviously huge, right, globally, and obviously here in the U.S. as well. And he's also the founder and CEO of Strikeforce before. He was he promoted the first major mixed martial arts event that headlined 2 women. So very progressive. If you know Scotty, he's just a great person. Everybody loves him. He's well respected in the community. The fighters love him. He's very respectful of everybody, the fighters, media, everybody. And I remember when I would go, I'm in high school, a teenager, and I'd go and, before class or before training, I'd go into his office and he'd be in there working the phones, right? I'd be like, Scotty, what are you doing? He's like, trying to get a fight for my fighter, Javier Mendez. He's like, back then it was just kickboxing. Now it's mixed martial arts. But I'm trying to get and every now and then I'd go in there and Javier would be in there with him, right? And they'd be working the phones, trying to get a fight, right? A pro fight so they can make some money. And Javier Mendez later established American Kickboxing Academy, his own gym. And American Kickboxing Academies had several mixed martial arts champions, UFC champions, including Cain Velasquez, Khabib, who's now the welterweight champion, trains out of American Kickboxing Academy. So anyhow, I say all that to say this, that I have background with people in that community, very well respected people in that community. Also, and I also wrote. When I was with Fight News, I didn't cover boxing. They also asked me to cover mixed martial arts. So I was their cage side for some of the events for the WEC, which later got bought by the UFC, and of course the UFC. I was there cage side for UFC 74. Randy Couture was battling for the UFC Heavyweight Championship against Gabriel Gonzaga at UFC 74 in 2007. I was there cage side right there, like, I mean, just a few feet from where they were doing battle. I was there for UFC 79, also in 2007, when Chuck Liddell, the epic battle, light heavyweight battle between Chuck Liddell and Vanderlei Silva. I mean, it was awesome, right? If you like fighting. And on that card was also Georges St. Pierre battling against Matt Hughes for the interim welterweight title, UFC title. So I was there for a lot. I saw a lot of fighters who are now Hall of Famers. They're now UFC Hall of Famers. Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, Georges St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, and Vanderlei Silva, I guess, is not. Maybe he will in the future, but he had a great career as well. So anyway, so that's my background, and I'm really excited about this episode. And we're gonna talk about Bruce Lee and talk about his background and some of his sayings and how they've influenced me and affected me in my work, right? In this work of spirituality and what I like to call manifesting immortality. But let's start with the word eclectic. What does it mean? Eclectic means deriving ideas, style, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources. So again, deriving ideas, style, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources. So if you watched my episodes before, you know that I use a broad and diverse range of sources, right? I use ancient text in my messages. I use ancient wisdom in my messages. I use examples from pop culture, like today with Bruce Lee, as well as current events. So that's eclectic. So that's why I talk about or part of the title of today's episode is the eclectic nature manifesting immortality, because that's what I do. It's a very eclectic, these shows are very eclectic, my posts are very eclectic. They're borrowing from a broad, diverse range of sources. Bruce Lee was also very eclectic. Bruce Lee was a philosopher. He read a lot. His wife said that he had over 2,000 books about nutrition and exercise and training, combat. He was also an actor and a director. He actually started his acting career at a very young age. He didn't do a lot of acting when he was a kid, but he did some acting. He had a background in acting, and he studied acting and became a film star and a director. And he was an innovator. Bruce Lee is the gentleman who mixed, right? He mixed martial arts. He started training at the age of 13 in Wing Chun form of Kung Fu, or Gung Fu, for self-defense purposes. He was getting in some scuffles, and his dad wanted him to learn self-defense. So at the age of 13, he started studying Kung Fu, or Gung Fu, the Wing Chun brand of Gung Fu, or school of Kung Fu. He also not just used karate or Kung Fu, but he also mixed in boxing. He also mixed in striking, grappling, judo, and jiu-jitsu in what he called the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. I've had his book for a long time, and I actually reread it yesterday. And Tao of Jeet Kune Do is his system of fighting. And it's the system of fighting that emphasizes practicality, flexibility, speed, and efficiency. The most efficient way, basically, to get the job done, again, it's eclectic because it's borrowing from different sources, whether it's grappling or judo or boxing or Kung Fu. So using all these different martial arts to come up with a system that is efficient. So that was his system, the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. His background, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this page here so you can see some of this. I already read through all of that. But going on to the next page. Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco, California, not far from where I was born. Right there in the Chinatown area, San Francisco, back in November 27 in 1940. But he was raised in Hong Kong. He wasn't raised in California. He was raised in Hong Kong, although he was born in San Francisco. in 1958, as a teenager, Bruce Lee won the Hong Kong School's boxing tournament. Like I said, he is trained in different disciplines, martial arts. 1958, he won the boxing tournament, the Hong Kong School's boxing tournament, and he also won, interesting, the Crown Colony Cha-Cha dance championship. He won a dance championship, Cha-Cha. Like I said, he was eclectic, right? He was a championship dancer, Cha-Cha dancer, in addition to being a championship boxer, in addition to training in Kung Fu or Gung Fu. So what happened? While still a teenager, 1959, Bruce Lee gets into a street fight. And it wasn't uncommon, right, for Bruce Lee to get into street fights. He gets into a street fight, and this one was a little different because the police were called. His dad apparently later said that they were worried that his son might have beat up a kid who was connected with the mafia, right, the triads. And as a result, they're fearing for Bruce Lee's safety because obviously Bruce Lee won the fight, right? So they're feared that retaliation was going to come back, and it's going to come back heavy on Bruce Lee because of who he beat up in the street fight. So his dad said, you know what, for safety, son, we're going to move you to the United States. You're going to go back to the place of your birth, right? He had a U.S. passport. He was born there and everything. So at the age of 18, Bruce Lee leaves Hong Kong, goes back to the place of his birth, right, the United States. He ends up studying drama, philosophy. He enrolls at the University of Washington in Seattle and studied drama, philosophy, and psychology as well, right? Eclectic, think about that. Drama, philosophy, psychology, eclectic person. And that's also where he began teaching the martial arts there in Seattle. In 1964, Bruce Lee left Seattle. From what I read, the sources I read, he didn't finish his degree there at the University of Washington, left Seattle in '64 and moved to Oakland, California. And if you've watched past episodes or read my posts, you know how endearing Oakland, California is to me. So he ends up in Oakland, California in 1964. And what does he do? He does what he knows. He teaches the martial arts. Then one day, according to Lee, right, according to Bruce Lee, he is issued an ultimatum by the Chinese community there in the Bay Area, right? He's teaching in Oakland. The Chinese community says, you need to stop teaching non-Chinese, right? Our ways aren't meant for the non-Chinese. They're meant for our community. And Bruce Lee, being the gentleman that he is, refused, right? He's like, I'm not going to do that, right? I bow down to no man. And so he refused, and as a result, there was a challenge. He was challenged to combat. And the idea was that if Bruce Lee won, he could teach whoever he wanted. You're free to teach the non-Chinese. But if he lost, he'd have to shut down his business operation. He wouldn't be able to teach outside of the community. And his days of teaching the non-Chinese would be over. So, like I said earlier, Bruce Lee doesn't lose fights, at least not any of the sources that I've read. Have I read where Bruce Lee lost a fight? If you know, text me, IM me, DM me, I'd be interested to hear. So anyway, he's challenged to combat, and he fights this gentleman by the name of Wong Jack Man. And the fight lasted 3 minutes, and guess who wins? Bruce Lee wins. So he wins, and now he's able to do what he's been doing, right? Freely teach the non-Chinese, the martial arts. Now, interesting about Bruce Lee, he wasn't satisfied with the win. You would think, man, like all the pressure, right? Like his business operation is going to get shut down if he doesn't win this fight. You'd think he'd just be ecstatic that he won. He was not happy with the win. Why wasn't he happy with the win? It was because of this. He felt he could have done better. He felt his performance took too long. And that's when he set out to form his system, the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, the more efficient way of fighting. And yeah, so that amazing, right? Amazing. So that was really the propelling incident for Tao of Jeet Kune Do, a more efficient way of street fighting. So anyway, so he finishes, so he wins that fight. He continues teaching freely the non-Chinese. And then in 1966, his acting career takes off, right? In the U.S. He is cast as Kato in the TV series The Green Hornet So he's the supporting actor in this TV series from 1966 to 1967. It lasted one season, 26 episodes, and he was Kato. And I loved the Green Hornet. I couldn't, whenever those episodes would come out, I would just love it. For me, it was, after the fact that the show had already ended, but I would watch them, whenever they'd play back the episodes. And Kato, he'd wear a mask, right? He'd wear a mask and he'd do the martial arts. And, they said that it was reported that he was so fast, right? His strikes, his kicks, and his punches, he was so fast that he actually had to slow down because the cameras couldn't catch his speed. He was just that fast. He had to slow down his movements so that the camera could capture his movements. So anyhow, great show. Actually, he did a couple guest appearances. I believe it was a couple, but I know at least one on the TV show at the same time, Batman, Green Hornet and Kato, right? These superheroes appeared with alongside Batman and Robin, and those are my favorite shows. So anyhow, the show only lasts 1 year. He stars as Kato, and then it took a few years for another opportunity to surface, during which he came up with this idea for a new TV series, which he would be the leading role in. And it's called, and this is according to Lee, it was called Kung Fu. And he would be the leading role, and it's about a martial artist who traveled the Old West, right? And it was an awesome idea, so awesome that it ended up becoming a show. But Bruce Lee was left out of it. Hollywood ended up casting David Carradine in that role, the lead role for Kung Fu. Why? Obviously, there's a lot of speculation. Sources do say it was because his accent was too thick. So they're looking for somebody who'd be more amenable to a U.S. audience, and David Carradine was that person. David Carradine was Eurasian. He didn't have a thick accent. He didn't have an accent. But David Carradine also wasn't at that time a martial artist. Not only that, but as Lee says, that was my idea. But anyway, he wasn't cast, and obviously unhappy. Bruce Lee goes back to Hong Kong because he wants to be a lead, right? He wants to be a lead. And so he goes back to Hong Kong, and sure enough, and I'm going to go ahead and flip this here. Sure enough, he ends up starring in 5 feature films in Hong Kong. 5 feature films. He becomes a global icon. And not only that, but he smashes stereotypes. So there's a stereotype of the emasculated Asian male, and he smashes it, right? Because in Bruce Lee's movies, he's the lead, right? He's this awesome fighting machine. He's sexy, right? He just smashes all those stereotypes of the Asian emasculated male. As a result, he becomes a global icon, right? Endeared to the Asian community across the globe, and to all of us, right? Including my community. My cousins and uncles and me, we'd watch his movies and just loved him. And, he was one of our heroes because he was there in San Francisco, in the area, right, where we were. So I remember going to Chinatown, and there'd always be posters of Bruce Lee, and we'd buy posters and stick them on our wall. And, it was awesome for us, right? He was like one of us. Even though we weren't part of his ethnic community, he was part of our community. And we embraced him as such. So anyway, about his movies. First movie was The Big Boss in 1971. That was the one that launched his career. Box office, smashed box office records. Next movie was Fist of Fury in 72. Smashed the record set by The Big Boss. Then came The Way of the Dragon in 72. And then the big one, Enter the Dragon in 1973. This movie was one of the year's highest grossing films back in 1973. It was made for only US $850,000, but it made $350 million worldwide. Think about that. The budget was only $850,000 US, but made $350 million worldwide. That speaks directly, right? Dollars speaks directly to the success of Bruce Lee. And his motion pictures, and the market, right? The market was hungry for somebody like Bruce Lee to come along. unfortunately, 6 days before the release of Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee died at the age of 32. And as I did, and I'm sure you're thinking right now, how could this person die, right? They're global icon, they got money, they're fit as all can be. What happened? Well, there's theories and speculation and whatnot, and I don't want to do a lot of speculation, but from what I've read, the autopsy officially ruled death by misadventure. Apparently the autopsy found Quasiac in his system, which is meprobamate and aspirin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I know I got doctors and physician's assistants and nurse practitioners on this who watch my episodes, so they're probably laughing right now, but it's this. This is what the official, if you can read it, this is what the official autopsy said. And anyhow, this is apparently treatment to relieve pain caused by tension and anxiety. It's short-term pain relief. But anyway, that's what they found in the system. But there's a lot of theories and speculation, about why Bruce Lee died. But this is what I found online, right? The official report. So don't want to go into that because that could be a whole episode by itself. But anyhow, moving on, he was finishing up another movie when he passed called The Game of Death. And they ended up finishing that movie, and that was released in 1978. So that was Bruce Lee's movie career, those 5 films. Now, there's some things that Bruce Lee said. So I studied the Tao Jet Kune Do. I'd read it a couple times when I was, back in the day, but I reread it again. And there's certain things in his Tao Jet Kune Do and just sayings, all around that have stuck with me through time. And part of that was this just practical advice on fitness and being well and being healthy. Bruce Lee would say, park the car a few blocks away from your destination. Great advice, right? Great practical advice. If you're going, to see your PCP, if you're going to, grab some groceries, going to the mall, whatever, park a little farther than you usually would, right? So you can get those extra steps in. Unbelievable advice, right? And practical, right? Practical. Avoid taking the elevator, right? Instead, climb the stairs. Great practical advice, right? Get those extra steps in, right? Why take the elevator when you can climb the stairs? Bruce also said, practice your balance by standing on one foot, right? Great practical advice. You can do that pretty much anywhere, right? Just practice your balance standing on one foot. So these, those 3 especially have always stayed with me. I always try and do that, follow that, since I can remember, since reading his book when I was young, back in the day. And he also has some famous sayings. And this is where we're going to get into the immortality part, or my teachings, right? Abundance, immortality, justice. One of his sayings was, "Be like water." And here's the idea of be like water. If you think of water, if you're in a body of water, like a swimming pool or a river or whatnot, ocean, and you try and punch or kick, right? You try and strike the water. What happens? It just separates and it comes back. You can't hurt water, right? Yet water is super strong, right? It can break through and break rock, right? Very strong. So a while back, I had this vision, right? I've been praying for myself. So I was using scientific prayer for some prayer requests I had for myself. And I had this vision of this river flowing, right? This river was flowing, and that river represented the blessings, right? The prayer requests, those blessings coming into my life. However, there was a dam that was blocking the flow of that river, right? But then as the river started flowing, it started flowing stronger and stronger, and then eventually there's cracks in the dam, and eventually the river broke through the dam. And then all I could see was just white, right? Because this rushing river, just boom, just white. And it was amazing. It was an amazing vision. And so anyhow, the river was like, these blessings wanting to come into my life, but the dam represented scarcity thinking, right? Scarcity thinking. This thinking of, I'm running out of time, or I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough resources to start that business, right? Or, just any sort of scarcity thinking is what was stopping the flow of those blessings into my life. And I started this episode by talking about the young gentleman at the deep end the Eclectic New York City. That's an example of folk who aren't caught up in scarcity thinking, right? It's a pandemic. They're small business owners in New York City trying to make a restaurant work, and they just said, you know what? We're going all in, man. We're gonna help the community. We're gonna go 100% and cook and deliver meals to help our community, right? People who are struggling with food insecurity. That's an example of people who've just smashed through, right? They smashed through that scarcity thinking. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get it done, and we're going to help others doing it. Beautiful example of breaking through that scarcity, breaking through that dam, right? So be like water. Be like water is one of the sayings that really resonates with me. Another one is this. Bruce said this: I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, right? I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times, right? One kick 10,000 times. Awesome saying, because it's talking about singular mission, right? Singular mission, and it resonates with me because, although I'm eclectic, right? I borrow from different sources when I do these episodes and write my posts. I'm really about one singular mission, right? And that's manifesting immortality. That's what I'm known for. This idea of manifesting immortality, right? Anti-aging, and manifesting eternal youthfulness. I have this singular mission. And so that's why this really resonates with me. And going on from there, another saying that really resonates with me, the priest said, he said, life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster person. But sooner or later, the person who wins is the person who thinks they can. I'm going to say that again because it's so powerful. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster person. But sooner or later, the person who wins is the person who thinks they can. So why does that resonate so much with me? Why does that resonate so much with Beto? Why does that resonate so much with the Daily Divinity Coach? Oh, I'm going to give you an example. So just the other day I was asked, Beto, do you ever think you're going to fail? I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean fail? Well, Beto, you always talk about manifesting immortality, about this anti-aging thing. Do you ever think you're going to fail? You're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to manifest immortality. And I had a very short answer. And it was one word, 2 letters. N-O. No, I don't. I don't think about that, right? I don't, because I think I can. Right? I believe I can. So I don't think about that. And that's why this resonates so much with me. That eventually that person who thinks they can, they're going to do it, right? They're going to win. And so I just love that quote. I love his saying. There's a lot more sayings I wanted to share, but because of time, I didn't want this to go over too much. And I know I'm already over for this episode, but I really appreciate you joining this episode. It's been episode number 22, Bruce Lee, MMA, and the Eclectic Nature of Immortality. I hope you join again next week. I'm here every Sunday, live on Facebook Live, starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is a joy for me to be here with you, and I really appreciate you. I'm very grateful. I'm full of gratitude for you watching my shows, for those who can join live, but also for those who can who watch the recorded video. I have there's a lot of people who watch the recorded video, and very grateful for you as well. So I'm grateful for this forum to be able to deliver this information and this content. So I'm going to go ahead and put my reading glasses on now, end this episode, but I do hope you can join again next week for next week's episode, which will be episode 23. And if you haven't received your bracelets yet, please reach out. I got a new box of 250 sets. If you have friends who you think would like them, have them, tell them, let them know about me. They can follow me on social media. They can request their own sets of bracelets, and more than happy to ship those out, and ship those out for free. if within North America or Europe. So I'm going to go ahead, again, I'm going to put on my reading glasses, and then, thank you very much for joining, and those watching the recorded video, thank you very much for watching the recorded video, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.